If you are pregnant or you've recently had a baby, this podcast is for you. I am your host, Kath Bequee, a physiotherapist working in women's health and mum of 3. Join me each week as we dive into all things pregnancy care, childbirth and postnatal recovery, helping you have a wonderful pregnancy and afterbirth experience. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. Well, hello there. It's great to have you here for another episode of the FitNest Mama Podcast. Today, I am chatting with the lovely FitNest Mama member, Kiara, who has an 8-week-old daughter, Ruby. Kiara shares her beautiful birth story in this episode. Kiara discusses her vaginal birth she had in hospital, the way her partner helped to assist her, the water injections she used for pain relief, her fast labour, and strategies to help her stay in control, focused and calm. So every few weeks on the FitNest Mama podcast, we have a birth story from one of our lovely FitNest Mama members, and we do hear from a range of everyday mamas who have experienced a range of different types of births. And I trust you will enjoy this episode today, in which Kiara wanted to discuss how she found it possible to experience pain at the same time as having an amazing birth experience, and how they can both exist side by side together. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this birth story podcast episode with Kiara. Before we do dive in, I do just want to let you know about a free live pregnancy workshop, which Kiara does actually mention in this episode today. So this is a free 1-hour pregnancy workshop available to everyone to help you prepare for your body, and pelvic floor for birth and beyond. So this 1-hour workshop I designed to really help you feel more confident and empowered about your upcoming birth experience. In this workshop, you'll learn about pelvic floor preparation. So you'll learn about the benefits of perineal massage and how it might help to reduce your risk of perineal tears and episiotomy. And you're also going to learn about afterbirth recovery essentials to help you boost that all-important afterbirth recovery period. So as a women's health physiotherapist, everything I do share in this free pregnancy workshop are things that I believe every woman deserves to know when pregnant to really help her childbirth and afterbirth experience. So to register for this free workshop, head to fitnessmama.com/free, and the link is also in the show notes. So Kiara, thank you so much for joining me on the FitNest Mama podcast. It is so brilliant to chat.
Thank you for having me back again, Kath.
Yes, so for those who don't know, I should have looked up this episode, but Kiara did one of our very first episodes and we talked about mindfulness in pregnancy. Is that right?
And body confidence as
Body
well.
confidence, yeah. That's what it was.
But also mindfulness too. That was a big part of it as well.
Yeah, it was a great episode. So do check out Kiara's episode. And Kiara since came and joined us inside FitNest Mama, and you've had a baby. So
yes.
I'm really honoured to be able to talk to you today about your birth story and your journey so far. For any listeners of the podcast, if you've been listening for a while, you'll know that I endeavour to get on a whole range of birth stories, no matter if we've had a home birth, we've had cesarean sections, we've had pain relief, no pain relief. We've had everything. And I actually have no idea about your birth story, Kiara, and that's why I like it because it's a bit of a surprise. So Thank you. So let's start off. Can you please give a little bit of an introduction for those who might not know who you are?
Yeah, no problem. So my name is Kiara and I am the founder of Inside Out Health and Wellness. So I'm a mindset coach. So I work a lot with women, but I'm also an academic coordinator as well. So I have a part-time job too. So that was definitely took up a lot of my time while I was pregnant. So the business kind of took a little bit of a back burner. And yeah, I had a great time when we did our podcast episode. I think that was last year. I'm pretty sure we did that. Yeah. And then I joined FitNest Mama when I was pregnant, and has been amazing.
Yeah, well, we're going to dive into all that later, but I would love to know. Let's start at the start. So how was your journey to becoming pregnant?
So like everyone, my plans got put on hold quite significantly during COVID. I had to put off my wedding 4 times. Oh. So definitely then getting pregnant then obviously got put on hold as well. So we got married in April last year, and then in August I found out I was pregnant.
Yeah, right. Amazing. So it was a pretty quick journey for you?
Look, to be honest, I had a really good understanding of my body prior. I had been tracking my cycle for 2 years, not with an app, with actually a written tracker, which I find is much better for connection rather than, I think if you're just on an app, you're just kind of ticking and flicking, and then, it might tell you when it thinks you're ovulating. But I think it's so important for you to actually understand your body and know the different signs. So I was really very in tune with my body, and I think that certainly helped out with the process.
For those who don't know what a written tracker is, can you just describe that a little bit more?
Yeah, certainly. So basically every day of my cycle, I just tracked how my body was feeling, just general signs, and just understanding like the different seasons of my body as well. So sort of that inner winter phase is that menstruation, then going through the spring, summer, which is ovulation, and then that inner autumn. So I used to eat differently based on where I was in my cycle. I used to exercise based on where I was as well. So yeah, I think just having that understanding of your body is really important. So I think just like writing that down just helped me really connect. It was almost like a journaling session.
Yeah, right. And how long had you been doing that in the lead up to becoming pregnant?
For about 18 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really?
So I went off the pill that like 18 months ago, and then I started really getting in tune with what my body was doing.
And after coming off the pill, did it take a while for your body to settle down?
I would say a couple of months. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. You're very in tune with your body.
Yeah. Even my husband was very in tune because I used to have my tracker on the fridge. So he always knew. And he was the one that picked up I was pregnant before I did, because he was like, what day of your cycle are you on? And I'm like, I'm about day 37, but I don't think I'm pregnant. Like, I think I'm just late, but I was definitely in denial.
Amazing. So he knew that you hadn't had your period yet.
Yeah, he knew I was quite late, and he's like, you are pregnant, and he just ran out and got a pregnancy test, and I was like, no, I don't think so. And he's like, just do it. And sure enough, yeah, it come up. That line was very dominant.
Oh, that's so lovely that he was so excited by it.
And I was again in denial. I was like, I think maybe I did it wrong. I don't know if I did the test right. I was like, maybe I should do it again.
How many tests did you do?
Enough, I did 2, and they both came up pregnant.
Yeah, amazing. So when you found out you were pregnant, what was going through your mind? Like, what were the next steps for you?
First of all, denial. I think I was in a bit of shock, even though we were trying. It was still like, oh, I can't believe this is actually happening. So I was like, I won't believe it until we go to the doctors. So sure, we went to the doctors, got the tests and everything, and yes, that all confirmed. And then the morning sickness started, and that came on hard, fast, strong, every adjective I can think of. So I was diagnosed, what's it called? I think it's
hyperemesis.
Yeah, that's it. I was like, I can't remember how to say it. Yes. So I didn't have the best first trimester. And I remember my husband looking at me like, we are one and done. I can't see you go through this again. Like, this is just awful. So it was definitely that time where I didn't feel grateful every day that I was pregnant. And I know that we actually spoke about that in our previous podcast episode that we did, was just talking about how just sometimes it's okay to be, not feeling grateful, and it's okay that if you are really sick or whatever it might be, to just feel a bit upset, a bit sad. But yeah, I got through it, just took it day by day. I just counted down the weeks, and by about week 16, I started to feel better.
A long time, 16 weeks if you're not feeling well.
Yeah. Luckily, though, it actually coincided with lockdown. So in Melbourne, we were in that strict lockdown again at the sort of around that August to October. And then when lockdown sort of started to ease, that's when I actually started to feel better. So that worked out really well.
Yeah, great. And was there anything that helped you when you were feeling gross? Anything that you ate or that you did during the day? Was there anything to just help you relieve that feeling of sickness?
Hydrolyte icy poles. They were absolute key. And Vegemite and avocado toast.
Okay.
So for our non-Australian listeners, they'll probably think about Vegemite and go, that is disgusting. But I think it was the salt in the Vegemite that really helped. So toast was something that sat really well. Everything else just no good. So I just pretty much survived on toast those first couple of months.
Yeah, wow.
And hydrolyte isopoles, yeah.
Okay. And then was it literally, did you feel it was overnight that you suddenly started to feel better?
No, it was certainly a gradual approach. I specifically remember the first time we were able to go out to a restaurant again. We went out for lunch and I was like, oh, I'm so excited because I'm feeling better. And I, of course, ate a lot and, I was not very well that night. So I was like, okay, lesson learned, we need to just ease back into this. So I just slowly started reintroducing things into my diet. I think I just got a bit excited.
What did you order in your first meal back?
We went to I think it was a Malaysian restaurant, I'm pretty sure. So we had all different, like a curry and rice and just not good for someone that's been so sick for months on end.
Oh dear. Okay, so you started to feel better, you started to eat again, which is amazing. And then I do remember you got COVID, didn't you?
Yes, in January. So I was that would have been late 20s, I think.
Okay. And had it been pretty smooth running up until that point?
Yeah, I actually got to a point where I was really enjoying the pregnancy and I was moving well. I was coming to the classes. I was walking a lot. Yeah, I was actually feeling, I was like, oh, this pregnancy thing, this is actually not too bad. And then, January came. I went on holidays for a week and I got it while I was on holidays on the last day. And that just absolutely knocked me for 6. It was a good, I would say 12 days of being bedbound with COVID. Yeah. So that was really, really tough. But the good thing about being a bit later on in my pregnancy is I could feel lots of movement. So that was quite reassuring as I knew Bubs was okay because she was moving around quite a lot. So that felt really good to know that.
And how were your energy levels after that?
I would say probably a good 3 weeks of just not feeling quite right. And then slowly started to get back into it. But then, as you know, we had a very hot summer. So the humidity was quite high. So that, of course, zaps your energy as well. So I think it was that combination of having COVID, being pregnant, and the humidity just took maybe a little bit longer to get back into it. But then the last part of the pregnancy was really good.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. Finally.
Yes. Except for when the lifts, I don't know if you remember me telling you, but the lift at work broke. So I had to walk up and down 6 flights of stairs and I got quite a lot of pelvic pain as a result of that.
Yes, I forgot about the pelvic girdle pain.
Yeah, but that went away with rest. So that was fine. Yeah, that wasn't something I dealt with for very long.
Okay.
Which is good. Yeah.
Okay, so let's start to think about birth. What were your thoughts around preparing for birth?
Prior?
Yeah, before, because I think sometimes before we're pregnant and when we're pregnant, we always have these sorts of ideals and what we want to do. What were they, and how did that change and evolve as you were getting closer to your due date?
Yeah, my thoughts certainly evolved. I would say a huge 180. I completely switched. Beforehand, all I had heard were these horror stories. So for me, in my head, I just assumed labor was just going to be painful, traumatic, and it's just something that you just need to quickly get out of the way. And it's just, you don't do anything to prepare. You just kind of get in, just get it done, and that's the end of it. So that's what I had coming in, because that's all I had ever heard. And that's why I really enjoyed listening to these episodes when I was pregnant, because it really helped turn my mindset around about, okay, it can be, of course, labor is painful, but it can also be a really positive experience. And when I did the masterclass, because I did the masterclass with you back in December, and just helping, just that little bit of information to help me understand how my body is actually working during labor, I was like, okay, I think I can do this, and then I did a hypnobirthing course. So that information, along with being in FitNest Mama, just really coincided. And just, I absolutely loved learning about the labor process. I got so excited, and I suddenly felt really empowered to be, I had in my mind, like, yes, it can be painful, but it can also be a positive experience. Like, those two things can coexist. It doesn't have to be this, horrible experience.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting, that sort of mindset shift that occurred within the space of your pregnancy? This episode is brought to you by Baby Bee, Australian owned and designed prams combining quality, safety and style. Not only does Baby Bee let you try their prams at home with free returns for 9 months, yes, that's 9 months, they also offer an industry-leading 3-year warranty for total peace of mind. With thousands of 5-star reviews, around-the-clock customer care, and up to $300 of free accessories with every pram, what are you waiting for? Go visit www.babybeeonline.com and check them out for yourself. And yes, for listeners of the podcast, there is a 20% discount code. Enter FITBEE, FITBEE 20 at checkout, and T's and C's apply.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I distinctly remember thinking, it was almost like I was burying my head in the sand. Like, oh, no, I don't want to learn it. Why would I learn anything about labor? I just go in, the doctors tell me what I need to do, or the midwives tell me what I need to do. And that's just it. Like that was honestly the mentality that I had. So I am so grateful that I empowered myself with that knowledge, because as a result, I had a really positive birth experience.
Oh, that's great to hear. So let's fast forward then to your birth. I'd love to hear, how did you know you were or did you go into labour naturally?
I did, yes.
What happened?
And I think the word denial it was in my head again. I think that's a common thread with my journey. But it was Easter Sunday. I woke up and suddenly went into this mad nesting mode. I was like, everything in the house suddenly just needs to be cleaned. I did like 3 loads of washing. I cleaned out the whole kitchen pantry. I was scrubbing. I was inside the bathtub scrubbing the bath.
So funny.
And my husband came upstairs and he's like, what are you doing? Get out. And he was Googling and he said to me, come over here, come to the computer. And he brought up signs of being in labour, nesting. And I was like, no, I just want everything to be cleaned. I'm not in labour. And so that whole day I was just frantically cleaning. And then.
So you didn't have any other signs of labour in hindsight?
I did, yes, but I was ignoring them. Yeah, I felt I was cramping. I felt pelvic heaviness. I was also spotting quite a lot. But again, I was sort of ignoring that side of it. I was just so focused on my cleaning. And I've never been like that. I've never cleaned the house like that before.
Isn't that amazing? So at what stage did you have to face your denial?
I had a good sleep around 3:00. I had a nice nap on the couch. We had dinner at about 6:30, feeling good. I was like, oh, I think maybe I'm starting to feel some contractions. And then my husband said, well, look, let's call your mum to come and pick up because we've got a puppy, Lucy. So with Steve, my husband said, let's call your mum just to get her to come and pick up Lucy in case we need to go to the hospital at 4 a.m. You know, we don't want to leave the puppy. I was like, no, I'm definitely not going to have to go to the hospital tonight. I'll just probably be in mild contractions. He's like, no, I'd prefer that the dog was taken care of so we don't have to be worrying. I was like, okay, no worries. So we called my mum about 7. Her partner came about 45 minutes later. And by the time he got there, I could barely speak. So I had gone from 7:00 having a chat to my mum, just having dinner, thinking, oh yeah, I've maybe got mild contractions. And then suddenly he just looked at me and he's like, oh my goodness. And I could just barely speak by then. So,
and why couldn't, it might sound like a silly question, but why do you think you couldn't speak? Was it discomfort or was it like the sensations? What was making the speaking hard?
Yeah, good question. I suddenly felt extremely overwhelmed with this sudden rush because it seemed like it went from 0 to 100 all in such a short space of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Lucy got taken away, so that was good. And then Steve said, okay, I'm going to time your contractions. And I think I had about 3 within the space of 15 minutes, but they felt like really, really sporadic. And he's like, right, I'm calling the hospital. And I said, no, we don't need to call the hospital. It's way too early. I've only just started contractions. He's like, right, we'll get your TENS machine out. And I said, no, it's even too early for that.
Can I just pause for a minute and say how amazing is Steve? He's being so proactive. He's
amazing. He was so good.
What did he do to prepare?
Yeah, we did the course together, which was extremely helpful because he knew, all the signs. And I think he just knew that there was something that wasn't right. It was like, this isn't normal, that you've gone from eating your dinner, happily chatting, to suddenly you can barely speak. So he's like, no, there's something not quite right here. We need to get you to the hospital.
Okay, so 3 contractions in 15 minutes. He suddenly thinks, let's get you to the hospital.
Yeah. So he called the assessment centre and they said, oh, have your waters broke? And I said, oh, well, actually, I didn't want to say anything. But at 3 a.m., so obviously the morning before, I did feel something, but I think I was just in a bit of denial. I was like, no, I don't think it was my waters breaking. I thought maybe it was just like the mucus plug starting to release.
Okay.
But because I was GBS positive, they wanted me to come in to double check that my waters hadn't broken, because I think you have about an 18-hour window of if you're GBS positive and your waters break, they need to get you on their antibiotics.
Okay.
So that's why they said, look, bring her in. There's no rush. Take your time. Bring her in. We need to check her out, and then we'll probably send you back home, but we need to know if her waters are broken or not. So he's like, right, okay, great. We'll get in the car now and come. And so we got in the car. That was about 9:00. We got to the hospital. They were asking me all these questions. And again, I couldn't really speak that well. So Steve was answering for me, which was incredible. And then we got taken up to the assessment centre and they did an examination. And the midwife said to me, you know, you look like you're really worried about something. Like, tell me what specifically is worrying you. And I said, I'm worried that I'm not coping. I can feel myself just not coping well. And I know it's really early on in the labour, and I know that you're probably going to send me home and I'm already not coping well. Like, there could be another 20 hours of this. And she's like, well, I've got some news for you. You're actually 5 centimetres dilated and in very active labour. So you're not going anywhere. And so that was a kind of a relief because, again, in my head, it's my first pregnancy, so it's going to be a long labor. But I think I was probably in mild contractions that whole Sunday, but I was just essentially ignoring them. So I think really that labor did start quite early. But so for me, I thought that the labor had started at sort of 8 o'clock. And I was like, it's only 10 o'clock. I'm only 2 hours into my labor and I feel like I'm not coping very well. Yeah.
So you're 5 centimeters, you're well and truly at the hospital, you're not moving.
Yeah, they were like, you're not going anywhere. And I said, are you sure you're not going to send me home?
That must have been such a relief to know that you're 5 centimeters, you're in active labour, this is it.
So I was like, oh, okay, that's why. And when I say not coping, I sort of say that term very loosely. I just, again, I had in my head that it could have been another 10 to 20 hours of this. So when I say not coping, I didn't think that I could keep that up for another, however long. But it turns out I didn't need to keep that up because the birth was only a couple of hours away.
Yeah, right. So it's 10 o'clock at night time.
Yeah.
You make it to your room. What starts to happen then?
I started to have some very intense back pain. So they weren't sure if maybe she was posterior. And I ended up getting the water injections, which was the most painful thing I have ever experienced in my life, but it only lasted for about 30 seconds. And then the back pain was completely gone.
Yeah, right. So you had a good experience from the water injections?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Very good experience.
Yeah, interesting. So we've had if you're interested in learning more about water injections, we've had a anaesthetist talk about them. So check out that pain relief episode. And then one of our first birth stories with Pamela early on in the podcast, also she had quite a different experience. So that's really good to know, to hear about your experience with the water injections.
Yeah, the midwives were absolutely fantastic, and they have to do it together. I think they need 2 people doing it at the same time. So you really need them to be very well experienced to do them. And as I said, it was horrendous pain, but it was over within about 30 seconds.
30 seconds can be a long time.
It was, yeah, absolutely.
What did you do during those 30 seconds?
I can't remember. But they said to me, they're like, wow, you handled that really well. And I thought, are you serious? I didn't think I did, but okay.
Okay, so the back pain was relieved afterwards. You felt a lot better. Was it a posterior baby?
It wasn't. They don't know if maybe she turned. So they weren't sure why I had the back pain. It could have been because I had that real sudden labour, or that she was posterior and then turned.
Okay.
Yeah, because there was no signs of it afterwards. And they were monitoring me quite heavily. I had the
So you had the belt monitoring?
Yeah. And because I had quite a lot of blood loss during the labour, so they wanted to monitor me quite heavily. So, yeah, I had the water injections, then suddenly felt everything in the abdomen area.
Yeah, right.
So whereas I feel like my pain was quite distributed between my back and the front, but yeah, then suddenly I felt everything.
And were you still using the TENS up until that point?
Oh, I never actually put the TENS machine on because I said to Steve that it was too early to put it on, when really it would have been a perfect time to put it on when I was at home. But yeah, again, I thought we're just going to be going like this all night at home with me being in and out of contractions. Yeah. So I was like, I've got plenty of time to put the TENS machine on.
Too funny. So those ladies, if you are interested in hearing more about TENS machine, I've also got a podcast episode on that. And that would be one tip, where put it on before you think you do it, because there's a lot of people just like you, Kiara, who think they'll use it later and then they never get around to using it.
I was really sad that I didn't use it, because I would have been really interested to see what it would have been like, because I did the masterclasses with you and learnt all about it. And yeah, I was quite excited to actually use it, but it just all happened too quickly for that to happen.
These things happen.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so talk us through, when did you start to notice, like, did you feel sensations change did you get the urge to push?
I certainly did, because I clearly remember saying that to the midwife. I was like, I need to push. I was just all of a sudden like, I feel so much heaviness in my pelvis. And I was like, I think she's coming. I think she's coming. So I said, I need to get on the floor. I don't know what's telling me that I need to get on the floor, but I just suddenly needed to do that. So I was on all fours. I just put a pillow underneath my knees, and then I had my hands over the bed. And then Steve was on the other side of the bed. So he was holding my hands from the other side, which was really helpful. So I, birthed in that sort of upright position, which of course was very beneficial.
Yeah. And so you only tried, that's really interesting. So you just got into that position and that was your position. You just wanted to stay there?
Just instinctively. Yeah. Just instinctively. Yeah. Because I was on the bed, like laying on my side. And then when I, suddenly felt the need to push, I just said to the midwife, I need to be on the floor.
Yeah, right.
And I hadn't planned to, it's not like I had planned to do that before. I knew that I didn't want to be laying down for the pushing phase. I knew that much, but I thought maybe I might be kneeling on the bed or something like that. But it was just amazing how your body just tells you what it needs to do.
Yeah. So you got into all fours, you're on the floor, and talk us through what happened?
30 minutes later, she was born.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So 30 minutes of pushing. And so, I felt, because I remember I had practiced that sort of coffee plunger technique. So really pushing from the diaphragm. So I was trying to hone that in as much as I could, and then really resting in between. So it was like, I thought of it, in exercise sessions where you're doing interval training. So it was like intense, and then I was completely resting. So I remember being over the bed and just resting like that, and then getting up again to push and then resting.
Amazing. And what was going through your mind when you were pushing?
This baby is coming. It was a lot faster than what I thought. It was like I didn't have time to kind of catch up with my thought process. Mm-hmm. But I certainly went into that survival instinctive mode of, I need to get this baby out.
And how was Steve helping at this stage?
Yeah, he was reminding me to relax my shoulders, because we had spoken about that. I said, look, if I look like I'm tensing up, that means I'm not pushing effectively. So I said, just remind me to relax, because it's easy to forget those things when your body is just taken over. And I sort of went into that adrenaline rush as well, because beforehand my body had gone into a few almost like convulsions, like I was shaking quite a lot. And they said that was really common for such a quick labor and a quick birth. So I didn't find myself sort of relaxing into it as much as I thought I would. He was just helping me, reminding me about the breath and to use my voice if I needed to use my voice to sort of yell it out, I guess.
Amazing.
But I felt myself going really quiet. I just felt, I don't know, for some reason, I just needed to almost retreat inwards, and that's how I coped.
Yeah, wow. And then little Ruby was born.
She was, yeah. I remember they asked me if I wanted to see, like, look at the mirror, and I was like, no, I don't want to see that. And then they asked if I wanted to touch her head, and I was like, no, because I was so focused, and I was like, no, I feel like it's going to break my concentration. So I said, no, I just need to keep focused on what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So and then I just remember seeing her down, and they sort of helped me get on the bed, because I was still attached, obviously, because we did the delayed cord clamping. So we tried to leave it on for as long as possible.
And so you went to bed, did they pop Ruby on your chest?
Yes. Yeah, which was really, and it's such a surreal feeling, because you know that you've just had a baby, but it didn't feel real. I feel like it had all happened so quickly that, when she was actually on my chest and they were doing the third stage, which I found more uncomfortable actually than giving birth.
You found it uncomfortable, like the painful?
Uncomfortable. Yeah,
Okay.
they said I could have the gas. And it was funny because the whole time I never actually used the gas, but I was actually holding on to it as if that was almost like my stress ball. So I held it and I tried to, I remember like almost putting it near my mouth and I was like, no, it just doesn't right. Like I actually feel better. Yeah, just holding on to it. So that turned out to be my only pain relief.
Wow. Okay, so placenta was delivered, got your beautiful Ruby, you've done it.
Yeah.
How's your body feeling at this stage? Did you need any stitches or?
I did. Yeah, I had a grade 2 tear. So I had a couple of stitches and yeah, I think that's because the pushing phase was just very quick and I don't like looking back. I don't know if maybe I could have slowed that down or not, but I felt like my body was just flooded with adrenaline that I was just in this state of, I just need to get her out. So I don't know if maybe I could have avoided the tear or not, but yeah, grade 2 test, not too bad. So
yes, and if you're listening and you're thinking, oh my gosh, grade 1 and 2 tears, they generally heal really well with no long-term effects. So the majority of tears that happen are the grade 1 and 2 tears. So have you, on that note, with the recovery, you're now, is it 8 weeks? Is Ruby 8 weeks old?
Yeah, 8 weeks.
And how's your perineum around the stitches feeling now?
It's fine now, and it's been fine for a good couple of weeks. So yeah, it was just the start that it was a little bit uncomfortable, but I did all the recovery that I had learnt about in the master classes. So I had them all written down and I was all prepared for those things. So yeah, I made sure that my recovery was top priority, as well as, of course, looking after my baby. But I wanted to make sure that my recovery, I'm so glad I learnt about all of that while I was pregnant, because of course, when you have a little baby, you don't have time to be researching and looking at all this stuff. So I'm so glad I knew about all of that beforehand.
Oh, you're like a star member, Kiara.
So I devoured all the resources.
So if you not sure what Kiara's talking about, inside FitNest Mama, we do have all the workouts for pregnancy and postpartum, but there's also quite a few resources. So Kiara's mentioned the preparing for birth resources and like the pushing techniques, but Kiara's also referring to the afterbirth recovery resources. So whether or not you have a vaginal birth or a cesarean birth, there's a few videos talking you through some key elements to help recovery. And on that note, Kiara, had there been anything unexpected with your recovery, your body and your recovery?
I didn't realize how almost like squishy my belly would feel afterwards. Like I know everything's been stretched, of course, but it was like, I remember just pushing in going, it's like there's nothing there. Like, where are my abs gone? Not that I'm not saying, like a 6-pack of abs or anything, but just the muscle. Like it was such a weird feeling not being able to feel them.
Yeah, 9 months of stretch and then it's like that elastic band.
It was crazy.
Amazing.
And then what I initially with feeding, I was actually doing side-lying feeding for the first 2 weeks. And that worked out really well to help out with my recovery, because I just remember I had in my head, Kath said horizontal rest. Kath said horizontal rest. As much horizontal rest as possible. So I took on board that advice very well.
And that's so amazing that you were able to master the lying down breastfeeding. Did you find that more challenging or pretty good?
Funny you say that, because it was actually the opposite. I struggled upright in hospital, and it was the midwife that actually suggested the sideline, because we'd tried all these other techniques, and Ruby was quite a small baby and she wasn't latching properly. She just didn't have that good reflex, which they said again was quite common with small babies. And then she's like, oh, have you tried the sideline? And I said, no, I actually thought that would be more challenging, but Ruby loved it. She just seemed to latch straight away with it. And I was like, you go, girl.
Oh, that's amazing.
So how was it? Actually helped me as well.
Yeah.
So I was so happy that she latched in that position.
Oh, perfect. And it sounds like you had a great bit of support with the breastfeeding.
Yeah, the midwives were really helpful. I was definitely utilizing them while I was there. And I think I ended up staying 3 nights in hospital. So I think I probably stayed that extra night because they could see I needed some extra help, which I was happy to take on board all the help I could get. I was not being proud or anything like that. I was like, I need help.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the feeding journey has been a little bit up and down, but I haven't put any pressure on myself. We've just been doing the best that we can.
Oh, you've done such an amazing job, Kiara. And now that you're 8 weeks after birth, I'm just curious, what are your goals in terms of your physical recovery? Is there anything you really want to get back to doing?
Yeah, I would love to be able to run again confidently with everything, feeling good. And that's why I was so proactive beforehand. And I remember you suggested to also see a pelvic floor physio. And I would never have thought to do that beforehand if I hadn't learnt that information from you. So just all of those things really helped me. And then, of course, I've been seeing her as well. I had my checkup last week, and we talked about some goals as well. And the running, was one of those goals. And just to be able to feel really confident when I'm exercising, knowing that I am taking my time and not pushing my body too much, just, working with my body rather than against it.
Amazing. Well, you're in the right place because we do have that 12-week return to running program. So it'll be great to help support you along with that, with those goals.
And I joined my first class yesterday, which was really exciting.
The first live class, that's right.
My first live one.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it was so beautiful because Kiara started and we all started together. And then at the end, I was like,
Ruby started crying.
Hello, where are you? And you came, I think, during the pregnancy class, the following class, and you showed us all Ruby. It's always beautiful to see the babies in the classes afterwards.
Yeah, I was like, sorry, guys, just had to attend to a crying baby.
Yeah.
She's not loving sleeping in her bassinet during the day. She just wants cuddles during the day. But overnight, she's very good, sleeps beautifully.
Oh, that's good. Well, to finish off with, I'm putting this on. I didn't actually tell you I'd be asking this question, but what final words of wisdom or advice do you have for pregnant mums or new mums who might be listening today?
I guess the one thing that really helped me, so this would be for anyone who's pregnant, especially with their first and just has no idea what to expect, is that, you can feel pain and still have a positive experience. And I think learning that information and learning what your body is meant to do in labor and the different stages and what's actually happening, and also with your hormones and how you can actually help your hormones, all of that, you can create a positive birth experience. And even if it might, like for me, I of course wanted a natural birth, but I was so open to, okay, if I needed to have an epidural, then that's what needed to happen. If I needed to have a cesarean, then that's just what needed to happen. But at least I would have understood why. It wouldn't have just been thrust upon me during labor going, you have to have a cesarean, and me going, what do you mean? Why do I have to have one for? I don't I would have properly understood why I needed one in that situation. And I think then, having that power and feeling like you've got that control is so much more beneficial than just going in sort of a bit blind and going, okay, we'll just kind of see what happens. And then, if things don't go, smoothly and you need to have interventions and whatever have you, and you don't understand why, I think that can be really scary. And that creates the fear as well.
Yeah. I love what you just said. We do our research before we buy a car. We do our research before we go on overseas trip. So to do our research before we have a baby can be a really empowering experience.
And just one thing on research though is just careful not to go too far into it, because you can absolutely go down a rabbit hole. So for me, I just kept where I was researching very limited. So for example, with FitNest Mama, I just looked at those resources, and with my hypnobirthing course, and they were the only two things that I looked at, because I was like, you could be Googling forever. You could listen to endless podcast episodes, research, do a whole bunch of courses and end up horribly confused afterwards. So that would be my other advice with the research, is just keep it contained.
Yeah.
So that you don't go off, because then you'll get stressed out.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, some great pieces of advice. We'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Kiara. It has been
no problem.
Amazing chatting, and I really, thank you for sharing your beautiful birth experience with us.
No problem. I hope it was helpful to anyone that's listening.
No, and for those who might want to come and find out about you and your work, would you like to let us know how to find you?
Yeah, sure. So I've got my own podcast as well. It's called Become Your Own Best Friend. I need to get back into recording episodes, actually. And my Instagram is at Inside Out Health Wellness.
Yeah, beautiful. And I'll put those links in the show notes. Thank you so much for coming on the FitNest Mama podcast today, Kiara. I really do appreciate it.
No worries. Thanks, Kath.
And before I sign off, remember my team and I will be putting together the show notes for this episode with all the links, including how to connect with Kiara at fitnessmama.com/podcast. And don't forget to sign up for that free pregnancy workshop that I talked about at www.fitnessmama.com/free. Have a fabulous day, everyone. And I look forward to you joining me soon for another episode of the FitNest Mama Podcast. Thanks for listening to the FitNest Mama Podcast, brought to you by the FitNest Mama freebies found at www.fitnessmama.com/free. So please take a few seconds to leave a review, subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and be sure to take a screenshot of this podcast, upload it to your social media, and tag me at FitNest Mama so I can give you a shout out too. Until next time, remember, an active pregnancy, confident childbirth, and strong postnatal recovery is something that you deserve. Remember our disclaimer: materials and contents in this podcast are intended as general information only and shouldn't substitute any medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. I'll see you soon.